Her&EU, a European podcast on gender equality. Brought to you by the Martenscentre with Loredana Teodorescu.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this new episode of Her&EU, a podcast on gender equality and women's role in the society. I am Loredana Teodorescu, and our special guest of today is Mariya Gabriel, recently elected President of EPP Women. So, Mariya, thank you very much for being with us, and congratulations on your new appointment.
Thank you very much, Loredana, for having me. It's a real pleasure to be with all of you.
Thank you, Mariya. So before this new appointment, you previously served as Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs of Bulgaria, but you also had a distinguished career in the European institutions, including, for instance, your role as European Commissioner for Innovation, Research, Culture, Education and Youth. So I would like to start with a personal question. Looking back, what have been the key ingredients of your success? How did you first get involved in politics? And most importantly, how being a woman has affected your career? Was it ever an obstacle or perhaps an advantage?
Well, first of all, I think that everything starts from the family. When you are surrounded by parents who do not see any difference for what a girl or boy can achieve, that's the foundation. And I'm really very grateful to my parents because since my childhood, I very rapidly learned that it's important to have dreams, it's important to work hard, it's important really to have knowledge, expertise, to know people and to learn from every single situation. The second thing, it was, of course, my European conviction. I must say that I'm passionate about Europe. For Europe, for me, it's not only freedom and solidarity, it's also values and fundamental principles. And one of those values is the equality between men and women. We are really very lucky to live in Europe where we have our chances really to have important positions. And also, that is the third element, this wish to make good. If everyone can contribute in the public or private sphere, in education, innovation, or in energy or in transport, I think that it's also important now to make this understandable for everyone, that everyone can make a contribution to the society. So I think that in the beginning I have those three elements. And yes, of course, because of my passion of Europe, European institutions were extremely important for me. I was first elected in the European Parliament, where I learned how important is the local context, but how important is also to bring this diversity into something that unites us. That was a very, very precious lesson. Of course, after in the Commission, you understand how important is the compromise, the dialogue to find a common position. We are 27 member states. We are so different, but at the same time, we are united because we want to see Europe as a place where every young people, every woman, girl can thrive, can really fulfill their dreams. And yes, my experience in the government at national level was also precious on that way to see how at national level we can bring good practices, but we can also learn from the others. So above all, that's for me politics. You have responsibilities, but you have also rights. And for me, the main question is how to find the good balance between.
Indeed. So thank you very much for sharing that. I think that your story is also a way to share some lessons for all of us. And you spoke about the importance of living in the European Union with its values, which brings me to my second question more broadly on the EU context and women in EU leadership today. So, as we said, you have held some of the most strategic roles in the European institutions. Yet, despite some progress, we know that women in high-level political positions are still a minority. So why is that? Why do you think that this gap persists? And what can we do concretely to try to address these kind of obstacles? I know that you are very committed to gender equality. You launched many campaigns in the past. I remember very well your campaign, No Women, No Panel, which then was spread across EU institutions and several national governments. So from your experience, what is still there as a gap and what can we do concretely?
You're absolutely right, Loredana. We have some barriers, and we have factors that explain those barriers, but we also have solutions. Well, of course, when I'm talking about factors that influence this non-representation or not enough representation in high-level political positions, they are all interrelated somehow, and that's the complex situation that we have in Europe. Because on one side, it's very easy to say we have historical and cultural barriers, but I don't believe too much on that. I much more attribute the weight to the stereotypes and biases. Gender stereotypes can influence public perception, media representation of women in politics. And I think that here it's very important since the very beginning to teach to the young girls to trust in themselves. This lack of confidence very often is perceived as weakness, and that's not true. It's simply a moment where women are taking this moment to evaluate the situation and to have the entire picture. Of course, we have also structural inequalities when we start from some basic questions like access to education, professional networks, or simply mentorship opportunities. Here, we definitely need to continue to work hard in order to prevent these barriers and to see how they can be considered as a factor for much more leadership roles for women. Of course, there is also work-life balance challenges because political career often demand significant time and energy commitments. And yes, here it's very important also to talk about the responsibilities in the family and the role of men, because women can't thrive only on their behalf. We need men for that. And also we need to look at the political party dynamics because on that side, we are very lucky. In EPP, it's clearly a priority. That's part of our fundamental values. And of course, because of this wish and demand and structure and initiatives, we also have the benefit to have access to networks that can lead to a much stronger position. Now, I think that what is important is to see that what is the impact. And the impact is that we need diverse perspectives. We are living in an extremely complex world, but women bring unique perspective and experience that can enhance decision making and policy information. I think that this diversity of thoughts and innovation in political landscape is something that women can bring in a much stronger way. Of course, it's also linked to the policy outcomes because research has shown that women leaders often prioritize issues that bring a holistic approach. Energy is important, but social affairs are also important. Education is important, but also economy and agriculture. So this influence on the policy agendas, it's something that we have just to transform it into a benefit for all of us. And yes, finally, maybe even we have to talk about public trust and legitimacy, because when we have governments that doesn't reflect the half of their population, of course that I think that public trust legitimacy is different. And if women are underrepresented, I think that yes, that can also fuel in a very, I don't know, very delicate way the manner with which the citizens, particularly women themselves, feel their voices heard or not. So not to end only on national and European level, it's also a global. We need to have a global perspective because if Europe today faces so many global challenges from security threats to migration to climate, well, the absence of women in leadership roles can hinder collaborative efforts and the ability to form inclusive global policies. So I think that yes, on that side, we can say that some barriers are persisting, but the new and the good news is that we have now new tools in our hands, including with new technologies, to tackle those barriers.
Thank you very much. You really gave us a very comprehensive picture looking at the different fields and aspects related to obstacles, but most importantly, on what we can do in terms of potentialities to further explore. And you touched upon the digital, for instance, and here I have in mind your previous position working extensively on innovation, research, digitalization. So in this specific field, what would make the biggest difference, and what is, let's say, the lessons you learned during your own career within the European Commission, and what is part of your legacy, let's say, in this field?
Well, first, I think that I learned that we have to stay much more focused on the solutions, the good practices, the inspiring examples, and not only to point out the problems, the barriers, and the impossible things to do and to realize. So I think that that's very important because, of course, again, when we talk about women in innovation and research and digitalization, immediately we have some main factors making them barriers, actually, the gender bias, the cultural stereotypes, the lack of role models, mentorship. Also, even the workplace environment is something that is important. But I think that what we need strongly to say is that we need to continue to promote STEM education for girls because we need these girls since the very, very young age. And I always have in mind that 90% of girls on the age of 9, 10 are interested on STEM, but only 6 after the university are making career from 1000. So that means that something happens in between, and there is the time, the period, the sequence where we have to intervene. And here is coming the mentorship programs. I fully believe in that, and myself, I'm doing this, and I would like really to encourage much more people to learn more because mentorship is strengthening your networking, and that's something that can help because we all have difficult moments where we just need to feel that we are supported and that we should continue to believe in our dreams. Of course, we need much more women-led initiatives. I'm really very happy that now we have in Europe a special program for women-led startups because here we definitely need to double our efforts. Women are really struggling to have access to funding. I'm always having this very, very shocking number. Only 2% of the venture capital is invested in Europe in women-led startups, and even some tendencies are showing that it could be less, and less than 2% is what, 1%. So it's something that we should continue really to address. And of course, also to give much more visibility to the success stories. I believe in that. We have so many inspiring girls and women in Europe. They are doing miracles every day in their community, in their region, in their village, in their country. So what I would like really to continue to contribute is to give them much more visibility, because the visibility for one success story is a motivation and inspiration for another girl that is waiting somewhere, asking herself, I'm able to do that or not? Yes, you are able to do that. Do it.
Indeed, that's very important, and I'm also a huge fan and supporter of mentorship program and this idea of role modeling. So now maybe let me connect this to your new role. I think that you highlighted very well how stronger participation and leadership of women can really contribute to build a more resilient and also forward-looking European democracy. And now, as new president of the EPP Women, what are your main priorities? So, what's there, and how can EPP Women become a platform that unites different national experiences while shaping a common agenda for women across Europe?
Well, I'm first of all, I'm really very grateful. I received a support that for me means, on one side, a recognition for my more than 12 years work for EPP Women, but it's also a great responsibility because I believe in teams work, and I'm really very grateful because now, together with all our members organizations, we can definitely stay focused on empowering women, fostering collaboration, and also, I must say, driving actionable change across Europe. And here we can have some concrete examples. Of course, I would like really to continue to work on empowerment and leadership development. As we already mentioned, establish mentorship networks that connect experienced female leaders with emerging talents, facilitating knowledge transfer and support. That's something that is important. Second, of course, we are very much privileged because as EPP Women, we have a very strong group of EPP Women commissioners and we have strong members of the European Parliament. So I think that we can strengthen this dialogue, and we can also in that way be a facilitator for gender equality policies, because we are fully aware what is our role, but we can't intervene in the legislative or the executive work. But at the same time, we can help to co-create a comprehensive policy framework and to identify those initiatives. Of course, for me, it's also very important networking and collaboration, because we need simply to continue to facilitate forums, conferences that allow women from different countries to share best practices, challenges, but also successes. And in that case, we can foster a much more supportive network across Europe. And of course, to promote joint projects and initiatives, because we should sometimes remind ourselves that the European Union was created to tackle the cross-border barriers. We need this collaboration. Of course, that will be not a surprise for you. Digital transformation and innovation will stay a main focus. Digital literacy, also one very, very important topic for me, is digital safety. We need to talk about what's happened online. There is a lot of risk. There is a lot of phenomena that actually discourage girls and women to be engaged in politics, and we have really to work on this. Of course, supporting women in STEM and innovation will be something on which I would like to continue to work. And finally, if I want to say, is really to try to establish a common agenda. It's very difficult. We have always an agenda at European level, another one at national, not to say regional or local. But I think that we can create a participatory process for EPP women members to contribute their national experience and priority, shaping a common agenda that resonates across member states. And here, for that, we have the base, because we have something in common. We have clear objectives. We are very much focused on key issues. We have the political and representation. We have stronger priorities that are very much aligned also with the work that is done in the European Parliament, in the Commission. So for us, now the question is to leverage online, leverage the diversity, and leverage, of course, the alliance that we have between ourselves and our alliance with other organizations.
So good luck with this very promising program. And maybe before we close, let me go back to your personal story, because you touched upon this. You are a powerful role model for many girls and women, and this is very important. But I'm wondering, was there anyone who inspired you throughout your personal or professional journey? And what message would you like to leave to our listeners, especially young women who dream of engaging in politics and decision making?
Well, actually, I think that I can't quote a big historic figure. I think that we all know them, from Simone Weil, the first president of the European Parliament, to Margaret Thatcher, or now even the president of the European Commission, the first woman president of the European Commission. Myself, personally, I was always inspired by people that I met, and I really take care of those that are simple citizens. Example, I'm really one of my role models is a teacher in one small city in Bulgaria. She's learning many other children how to code and what that means, digital literacy. And you can imagine in province 10 years ago, that was something quite unusual. And I must say that when I have teachers like that, I'm really inspired because they give me this sense of resilience, but at the same time to dare to do things. Of course, I would like also to mention Doris Pack because she is definitely one of my role models. When I first arrived in the European Parliament, I was really impressed by how much strong women we have in EPP, and of course, Doris Pack is one of them. She continues, by the way. I'm learning every day something from her. Now, what I have to say to the young girls, it's very simple. Really believe in yourself. Pursue your passion. Seek mentorship and build networks and be resilient. Don't hesitate to engage, to contribute. Stand up for what you believe in. And one very important message for us as women: let's support one another, because more than ever we need to support this mutual support if you'd like to thrive, if you'd like to succeed.
Indeed, I very much agree with you. So, President Maria, thank you very much for your time, for sharing your personal story and insights, and for this very interesting conversation.
Thank you, Loredana. It was a real pleasure.
Thank you to the Martenscentre for making this podcast possible, and thank you all for listening. We will be back soon with a new episode of Her&EU, so stay tuned.
That was today's episode of Her and EU. Subscribe to our podcast for more.